going.
Welcome to 2 Hours No Traffic, a New York, Philadelphia sports podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Spen Harris. He's Philly Brandon, and it is starting to heat up in the NBA, specifically in Philadelphia, as Joel Embiid is making another run at MVP. Let's give him a round of applause. Hasn't won it yet. Maybe this is the year, Brandon.
I doubt it. They're going to give it to probably Jokic or Jason Tatum just because of the narrative they're trying to push. Joel Embiid's doing things that we haven't seen a center do in generations. And it drives me absolutely – look, if you look at his March numbers, I think he's averaging 34 on the season right now. If you try and find a game in March and where he didn't have a 30-point double-double, best of luck to you. Let me know if you find a couple. He's just getting 30, 40 with ease every night. The Minnesota game, he was hitting step-back James Harden-esque threes. He had Rudy Gobert, who widely is regarded as one of the better defensive centers in the league, I think fraudulently. But he had Rudy Gobert in hell. He just does so many things that I know when his time eventually comes and he's not going to be a Sixer or he's not going to be as elite as he is now, I know people are going to look back and go, man, why didn't we appreciate him more? And that's going to tear me apart inside. Because every time I get to watch him play basketball, I do consider myself lucky, especially the Sixers fan. Like, he's going to go down in one of the league's all-time franchises as far as, history and, Hall of Famers. He's going to go down as one of the best, if not the best Sixer ever.
Yeah, he's definitely up there. What's so special about Joel Embiid is we've never seen another center play like him, right? He can kill you in the post. That's his bread and butter. He has a mid-range jump shot that, let's face it, is about as good as Kevin Durant's. Like, he's automatic in mid-range, and he can step out and hit the three. Defensively, he's a nightmare. He blocks shots. He gobbles rebounds. He does it all. The one thing he can do this, but not as well as Jokic, he's not racking up 8 to 10 assists per game. That's the difference. And that's why, again, it's ironic because we've never seen a player like Joel Embiid, but we've never seen a motherfucking player like Nikola Jokic either. Like, from the center position to just control the game, he controls it. He can kill you at all three levels of the game on offense. Now, so here's my thing, Brandon. You can tell me if I'm wrong. The reason I would give it to Embiid is he's a much better defender than Giannis. I think Giannis is a door on defense. People just walk by him. I'm sorry, I said Giannis. I meant Nikola Jokic. And B, if the Sixers can somehow sneak past the Boston Celtics and get the 2 seed, and Embiid continues on this historical streak, I would give it to Joel. But if the Sixers stay with the 3 seed and the Nuggets finish the season as the 1, I think you have to give it to Joker. That's just how I feel about that.
I don't hate the idea. That we get into this weird area of what the award really is. I saw Legion Hoops, who's usually half decent on Twitter. They came out with something saying like, Nikola Jokic doesn't have an all-star teammate or doesn't have that. That shouldn't matter. I don't care. Like, you can't penalize Joel Embiid for what he has around him. And then to your argument with, where they end up in the seedings, I don't think that's ridiculous. I think the East is more competitive than the West this year. The West has a lot of bad teams who are close to each other, so I get the competitiveness, but the East is loaded this year. There's a lot of really good teams in the East. So, the 3 seed in the East is nothing to shake a stick at, especially when 1 and 2 are Boston and Milwaukee. So I don't think that should have any bearing on it. I'm not a Nikola Jokic hater. I really want to be, because he's taken so much from me and Joel Embiid. 1, he's a great guy. He and Joel are friends. 2, he deserves to be an MVP, without a doubt. I thought 2 might have been much. I think 3 is egregious. 3 consecutive MVPs would be one of the best basketball players to ever step foot on the planet. I think he's really good. I think he's really efficient. He's not that. I don't think Joel's that either. But when you win 3 consecutive MVPs, that says for 3 years there was no one in the association better at basketball than you. And that's simply not true. Efficiency, sure. well-rounded, maybe, but pure dominance. I think this is Joel Embiid's the most dominant basketball player in the league this year. No one's found a way to stop him.
Yeah, I look at
Right?
Joel Embiid, and I you're right. I think that if you combined what Tim Duncan did, what Shaq did, and added a little bit of a 3-point jump shot, you get Joel Embiid. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he has the footwork that Tim Duncan had, which is just masterful, and he's a load to deal with down low. I mean, he is everything you want your center to be and more. And he's only part of the reason why the Sixers are as hot as they are right now. James Harden, which I won't belabor the point too much, 'cause I know it's a bit of a sore spot. He's James Harden again. I mean, he is what I wanted him to be when we got him. I don't expect 45, 50. I don't want 45, 50. That's what we got Joel for. He has been so efficient, so great at seeing the floor, being able to score at a moment's notice. He'll give you 35 a night, and then on the night when you get guys involved, he'll have 20 assists. He's everything we need when we need him to be it, and it's just come at the right time.
Listen, I'm over Harden, okay? I'm a lot more upset about Kyrie and KD at this point than I am about James Harden. Look, you guys are hot right now. You're winners of 4 of your last 5, 3 straight on the road, starting with that incredible win against Milwaukee, wins against the Pacers, Timberwolves, and Miami Heat. Like you said, Harden is playing at an elite just pace as far as running point for this team. And then you have your guy Tyrese Maxey, who apparently has been picking it up a little bit as of late too. So talk to me. I mean, we talked a lot about Joel. We talked a little bit about Harden, but how significant has Maxey been during this nice little hot streak for the 76ers?
Yeah, him being back in the starting lineup is everything. I don't hate the move when Doc Rivers moved into the bench because D'Anthony Melton was playing out of his mind and he's a much better defender. But if this is the Maxey we get when he starts, to hell with the defense, we'll be fine. If we can have 3 starters averaging over 20 a game, with obviously Joel around 33, Maxey, since being put back in the starting lineup, is averaging 26 a game. So when you're able to put that deep of a scoring punch together, where if you contain Joel, you got to deal with Harden. You find a way to contain those two in the pick and roll, you still got to deal with Tyrese Maxey. Somebody is getting an average or below average defender. Very few NBA teams are trotting out 3 elite defenders in the starting lineup. So with the Sixers, you really have to choose who you want to beat you. And no matter which guy you pick out of those 3, they're all capable of taking a game over, which is something we've never had. Ben Simmons was never that. Tobias Harris isn't that. So being able to have a big 3 where, if you take one out of the game, 2 other ones can kill you is something new for us. And in the playoffs, it's going to be huge because Joel's going to see doubles. James Harden is going to be, like I said, I just went out and sung his praises. He doesn't have the same step he used to have. He's not as great of a creator as he once was. He plays really well off Joel. So he's a little bit easier to stop. But to stop him, then to stop Joel, then to stop Tyrese is going to be a tall order. That's why I feel better about this team than I usually do going into the playoffs. It's all because of Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, I mean, look, no matter what happens with Harden in the future or Embiid, you have a really, really nice young player in Tyrese Maxey who seems to be the future of the 76ers. And I did want to just touch on James Harden's future because I've seen a few different articles saying Harden back to Houston after this season. Do you think that there's truth to that? If you had to put a percentage on James Harden returning to Philadelphia, if you don't win a championship, what percentage is he coming back?
So I think there's layers to this. I think if it's a second round exit, I think there's a real threat that he goes back to Houston. I think if we lose in the second round, there's a 70% chance that James Harden is a Houston Rocket. That goes down, obviously. If we make the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it's a coin flip. And if we reach the finals, win or lose, I think he's back. Because I think that gives him the hope to, ring chase and one day win one. I think if he doesn't get any closer to us than he ever has in his career, I think he does just kind of pack it in a little bit. It's like, look, I'm not going to win a ring. I'm going to go back to where it all started for him. And that's always been Houston, which, I don't understand, but but whatever. He did his part for the Sixers. I'm not even worried about it. This season means everything. If we don't get there this season, Harden's on the table. Joel, I think, eventually is on the table. How long is he going to be comfortable with second round exits and not getting MVPs? And you can only ask a guy to sacrifice so much. So this season means everything. This is everything for the franchise.
So, like, the funny thing is, I can picture Harden in a Houston uniform and really any uniform. And we've seen him. This is his fourth team in about 5 seasons. But it's weird to try to picture Joel Embiid in any other jersey that isn't a Philadelphia 76ers jersey. And I say that because you guys haven't loved a basketball player as much since Allen Iverson. Like, let's be real. Let's call it what it is. He is the most important player to this franchise since the answer. So I just where does he go? Does he go to freaking Dallas and team up with Luka? I think that would be interesting. I don't know. Where try his luck in LA with the Clippers because they've needed a center for years. What do you think?
In this reality that I really don't want to live in, because you're right. Like, he is Mr. Philadelphia. He means everything to Sixers fans, myself included. LA, maybe if he were to go that route. Honest to God, Denver wouldn't stun me.
Why? Where would Jokic go?
I didn't say he'd go anywhere.
So he's gonna you're gonna have 2 centers on the same team? What is this, Minnesota?
The only reason I say that is because they asked Jokic about he and Embiid's relationship, and he said, I think it would be really fun to have him at the 4, me at the 5, and just see what that looks like. I think we could do a lot of special things. Because the thing is, he's probably not going anywhere, so he's never linked to anybody. That's the only time I've heard another player go, I want to play with Joel Embiid, and this is how it would look. That's the only reason they're included.
I got a very interesting team for you. How about the New York Knicks? If for some reason Jokic decides to sign with them, all of a sudden you have Brunson, Josh Hart, Julius Randle, but you probably want to move Randle and get somebody better maybe, or keep Randle. I mean, Randle's been phenomenal this year. So if you had a 3-headed monster, Jokic, Randle, and Brunson in the East, it's a pretty good basketball team.
Yeah, the Knicks are really impressive. Before we get off the Sixers and onto the Nets, there's one guy that I wouldn't be doing my job if we didn't at least mention, and that's Jalen McDaniels.
New addition.
Wasn't on board with moving Thibault for somebody who I thought was a lateral move. I was wrong. I was just flat out wrong. He's a freak athlete. He can shoot much better than Thibault. He's a much more confident offensive player. And he's opportunistic on defense. He's not Matisse Thybulle on defense, but he's still good for a couple steals. He's great on the glass. He has been a revelation of what I expect him to be. He's probably, I'm definitely going to leave somebody out. He's one of the more impressive role players I've seen us bring in off the bench. I don't count D'Anthony Melton because he was a starter for half the season. I'm talking like pure bench guys. I've been more impressed with him than any bench player since probably Ilyasova.
Wow, that's high praise. So you're giving Jalen McDaniels the Brandon Farron Role Player of the Week award. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, he is. He's got my blue guy stamp of approval.
I love it. All right, are we ready to talk about a real basketball team?
You usually handle the Nets segments. I really want to talk about. He's an O guy, someone local. He is exploding for you guys.
Yeah. First of all, Sean Marks. I got to give credit where credit is due. It's me clapping. The return for Kevin Durant. We all looked at it. We said, okay, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, nice role players. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Mikal Bridges was a superstar in hiding who was pretending to be a role player for the Phoenix Suns. He's much more than a role player. Deadly. I mean, assassin-like sniper range from the mid-range. Just amazing.
Yep.
His three-point shot is extremely fatal. He can do it off the catch and shoot. He can do it off the dribble. And guess what? He can also get to the rim. He hasn't really yammed it on anybody yet, but he's been hitting some layups in traffic, a few blow-bys to the rim, And in this last win against Houston, in which he absolutely dominated in the second half, we saw him create a little bit. He had a few lobs to Nick Claxton, was able to break out Nick Claxton, who had been in a little bit of a dry spell offensively. He came alive against Houston. And look, I'm a realistic fan. Nets will probably be a first-round exit. Maybe it goes 6 or 7 with somebody like a Philly, but I think we probably lose in the first round. Having said that, you have a lot of things to look forward to after this season. Okay, Mikal Bridges is 27 years old. He is an extremely rising superstar right now in this league.
What's his contract like?
Oh, I think it's a good question. I think Phoenix signed him to a nice deal. I think we have him for a few more years. Cam Johnson is the one that the Nets have to make a decision on at the end of the offseason.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, funny thing with Cam Johnson, he's been a little bit inconsistent with us. He has not been hitting his jumpers. He's looked great at times, hasn't looked great at times. But this new look Nets team, I'm going to use a word that we like to use when we're kids. It's fun. They're a fun team. Dinwiddie, nice to see him back in action, doing what he does. My favorite thing about Spencer Dinwiddie is he plays like he's Kyrie Irving. Like, that's how he kind of thinks. He thinks he can just take over, and he has that ability. But the one thing I've noticed, the difference between him and Kyrie, every time Kyrie shoots the ball, it looks the exact same. Every time Spencer Dinwiddie shoots the basketball, it looks wildly different. Dude, it is insane, bro. Like, I don't get how he does it, but yeah, this Nets team is fun to watch. You know, we still got guys like Nick Claxton, Royce O'Neal, Seth Curry, Joe Harris wandering around out there. Dorian Finney-Smith.
I forgot he's on the team.
Who, Joe Harris?
Yeah.
Actually been playing decent after the All-Star break. I think he's 27 of 47 from 3. Like, he's been really stroking it since basically everybody on Nets Twitter shit on him for the majority of the season. Yeah. And the only other guy I wanted to shout out was Dorian Finney-Smith. Came over in the Dallas Mavericks trade. He hasn't really shot the ball well from 3. He had one breakout game against the Celtics, and that was actually a game in the net that the Nets won. But it's been interesting. And some guys in the Nets that have lost a little stock have kind of been buried on the bench. Fan favorite, Cam Thomas. He was right after Yuta Watanabe. But, yeah, Cam Thomas, I don't know what his future holds with the Brooklyn Nets. It does not seem like they want to play him. This is his second year. It's clear that he can score the basketball, but it's weird. In these last few games, Cam Thomas has barely seen the court. And Yuta Watanabe is also out of the rotation at this point. What Jacques Vaughn wants to do, he wants to go 9 deep. They picked up Nerlens Noel as a backup center for Nick Claxton recently. Love that. Great move. Former Philadelphia 76er. That's where he was drafted.
We wanted him back. Dude, Sixers Twitter was clamoring to waive Dedmon and get Nerlens in the building. Because Dedmon's dead weight.
Yeah, and the Nets needed to make this move about 4 months ago, but Sean Marks decided to wait until 3 days ago to get a center.
He was just bought out in his defense.
Right. So Nets are on a 3-game winning streak as well, with victories over the Celtics, the Rockets, and the Hornets. We play the Bucks on March 9th at 8 p.m., but in classic Nets-like fashion, we're resting 4 players. So we're pretty much throwing that game. Not sure why. Maybe for seeding purposes. Maybe we want to get into the play-in. I'm not sure why we're resting guys. This is the NBA. I really liked who was the player who said it? Josh Hart on the Knicks. They asked him, about fatigue, and Josh Hart basically said, like, dude, the guys that wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning and have to go to their construction jobs, those are the guys that should be tired, not us. We play a fucking kids game. I'm paraphrasing here, but you get my point. So I hate the fact that the Nets are resting guys. Pretty close. But yeah, listen, vibes are very good with this Brooklyn Nets team. Vaughn has these guys playing hard. Do I think they're going to have any success in the playoffs? No, but will they be a tough out? Will they fight? Will they claw their way to a few victories in the first round? Absolutely.
This iteration of the Nets team, not being a Net fan, reminds me of my favorite version of your team, which was, I think it was 4 years ago. It was a first-round battle with Philly. It was the D'Lo Dinwiddie Nets.
Don't forget Karis LeVert. Put some respect on Karis LeVert and Jared Allen's name.
Karis LeVert, I'm sorry. But you guys it was this team all over again. There was talent there. It wasn't top end, but you guys were tough to put away. Like,
was that the Ben Simmons versus Jared Dudley series?
Yeah. Oh,
They did
yeah.
that, they did that weird thing with their head. Though he's like, what? Simmons is like, what?
Yeah, I remember that. He called him a bum, which, as it turned out, they were, both bums. But it's just, you guys are fun when those are the Nets, and I know that's not what you want to be. I wouldn't want to be that either. But from just a non-biased observer, the Nets weren't as fun to watch when you were the villains. It just didn't feel right. This feels like the Brooklyn Nets, where New York market, you're battling with the Knicks, you're battling with the best of the East. You're kind of undermanned, but you're playing hard. It's more enjoyable as a fan to watch than the soap opera that was the last version of the Nets. And I know some of the drama's still there. I know even though Ben's out of the rotation, he's still on the roster, but it just feels like the vibes have done a 180 for that team.
You're absolutely right. And let me tell you one thing, Brandon. So Nets fans were a great group of people. We tend to manage expectations pretty well. We thought that with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, we might sniff a championship, and we were wrong. And so was Sean Marks and the way that he constructed this roster. But we are grateful for what we have at all times. And the fact that Mikal Bridges has popped off, he's like 26 point something points per game since the trade, we will gladly take that in the absence of Kevin Durant. Is Mikal Bridges Kevin Durant? Absolutely not. But I'll tell you this. Mikal Bridges has not missed a basketball game in a long, long time. I just got an update from Shams Charania. Kevin Durant slipped on the floor in pregame warmups, and he will be out with an ankle against the Suns. As great and as amazing as Kevin Durant is, he is injury prone. He misses games. And unfortunately, that's sort of his Achilles heel. No pun intended.
True.
Nets fans are grateful for Mikal Bridges. He's not going to miss games. He's going to show up every single night. He's what do they call it when you check into work? What's that thing called?
Oh, punching in, clocking in.
Yes. All right. He's a clock in, clock out kind of guy. And we absolutely love him. Like we fell in love with him immediately. And the other thing, these last few games, we weren't sure who the alpha of this team was going to be, right? Because Dinwiddie comes in, he's been here before, it's familiar. Mikal Bridges has said definitively in these last few games, I am the captain now. I am the alpha. And that is that.
Oh, yeah. I'm happy for him. He clearly was supposed to be a star in the NBA who was just on a team that had Devin Booker and Chris Paul. Now that he kind of has his own team, you could see this has always been there. He never had an outlet to, he was always in the corner shooting threes. But now you see, this guy has a whole bag to pick from. As far as hauls go, you're always going to lose when you move a Hall of Famer like KD. You're never going to, you can't win. For what you guys got back, that's about as close to a win as I can remember for a star player trade.
And if Cam Johnson starts playing, to his ability and he's able to start hitting some shots more consistently, that's a scary young duo that the Nets can build around for years to come. And you add in Claxton, who's also young. They got some building pieces. But I've said enough about the Nets. Let's talk about some other things.
Well, there's a lot of young building going on in New York, and one of them was pretty expensive. I didn't think he had it in him. I did not think that Daniel Jones and his team could swindle the Giants for the amount of money that they did, but they did. He is now an extraordinarily highly paid NFL quarterback after one pretty okay season. So, Daniel Jones, congrats on your bag.
Yeah, really surprising to hear that deal announced. I'm trying to pull up the number. What was it? 4 years, $150. Was that it? Oh, $160 million deal. $160 million, 4 years. Saquon Barkley got the franchise tag, which will be about $10 million in 2023. Jones got $82 million guaranteed at signing. Look, this was a home run for Daniel Jones. This was a home run for his agent. And this is a home run for the New York Giants because they had to do this. They had to overpay their guy and get him back because the known is much better than the unknown. I think we can all agree with that. And the one thing I'll say about the money is this: in 3 or 4 years, looking back on this deal, it's going to be a tiny deal, right? Guys much worse than Daniel Jones are going to get super mega deals in the next few years because that is the NFL. The quarterback always gets the bag wherever they are, as long as they show up and don't miss games. That is Daniel Jones. Also, like, everyone in Giants just allure loves him, from Eli Manning to John Mara, to Michael Strahan. All these guys were so on board with Jones. Joe Schoen almost had no choice but to make this move. The Maras were behind it. Eli was behind it. It just made sense. So glad for Daniel Jones and his family. Good for you getting that money. Sorry, Saquon Barkley. The running back is about the least valued position in the NFL at this point. And it's just way the cookie crumbles.
Dude, I mean, it's a gamble for sure. Because we have one good season of tape and several seasons of pretty rough tape, but the team was run horribly until this season. So once you have finally had an offensive minded head coach and a solid game plan, you could look at it that way and be like, look, if we're going to build around Daniel Jones, you have to actually do it and keep him around. That explanation I get. But man, just to think that Daniel Jones is a $40 million a year player. The expectations for him now are through the roof. It can't be, well, we had to overpay him to keep him here. You have to play like a $40 million a year quarterback. You have to be, for that money, you have to be a top 10 quarterback in the end. I mean, it's going to require a big jump from Daniel Jones to justify that deal. For reference, Jalen Hurts is looking at about $44 million, and he's a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the NFL, depending on who you ask. Sometimes 1 or 2. That's the kind of leap Daniel Jones has to make, is he has to be just about Jalen Hurts good to justify that money.
According to who?
Oh, I mean, he's only making $4 million less. If you're going to be in that tax bracket with Hurts, with Mahomes, with Josh Allen, Derek Carr got overpaid. But if you're going to be up there making that kind of money, Aaron Rodgers, I mean, you can't be Daniel Jones making big boy money and playing like a developmental quarterback.
I think that's fair. When in this previous season, because I know you paid attention to the Giants a decent amount, when do you think Daniel Jones earned this contract? What was the moment?
Oh, like the moment
when Joe Schoen looked at the rest of the front office and he said, "We got to pay him."
I think once you guys were, I think when you beat Minnesota, because getting to the playoffs, you could have argued was a fluke. I mean, you guys did start off hot and then cool off dramatically down the stretch, but then beating Minnesota, outdueling Kirk Cousins. He's probably the watermark for average quarterbacks. So that's kind of when it was like, all right, he's won playoff games. He's a playoff winning quarterback. That's about what they cost to keep those guys around.
Yeah, I think that's fair. People freaked out over that Colts win, and I just wasn't that impressed.
So
like, the Colts are such a bad organization. You had Jeff Saturday coaching there. Like, enough, right? That was the only game that the Giants put up 30 or more points in the regular season. Now they scored 31 against Minnesota in that playoff game on the road in Minnesota. So I would have to. That was a huge victory. So I would have to agree with you. That was probably the moment where Joe Schoen was like, "We got to pay this man."
Yeah, because like I said, if you lose in the first round, that press conference goes something like this: "Look, we're building this team to make a deep run in the playoffs. Daniel Jones has been great for us, but when he got to the bigger stage, he was outmatched. Like if he got to Minnesota and he just didn't look like he could hang, then you got to make a move because the team can get you there, the quarterback can't. Well, as soon as he wins a playoff game, there's nowhere else to go because a rookie can't do that. An unproven quarterback can't do that. Derek Carr has yet to do that. So then your hands were tied.
I 100% agree with you. Any big news coming out of Philadelphia with the Eagles?
Yeah, so today they elected not to bring back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, widely regarded as top 3 safety in the NFL, especially numbers-wise. So losing him hurt a ton. He's going to get probably $12, $13 million a year, which in the secondary, it's tough to pay somebody that much because they're so hot and cold. So I get it. It hurts. I wanted to keep him. I wanted to franchise tag him, but I get it. We're likely to lose James Bradbury and Javon Hargrave, who are also looking at between $10 and $15 million a year paydays, which the Eagles we don't give out that kind of money. We never have. Howie's just not about it. He'd rather build through free agency, build through the draft. So the defense is going to look weird. Brandon Graham should be back. Miles Sanders, no way he's coming back. See, he'll be out of here. But the offense outside of him should be okay. But yeah, the defense is going to be completely retooled. Expect Bradbury to leave. Expect Gardner-Johnson to leave. I would expect Marcus Epps to leave. He's a good cover safety. He hits hard, but he's going to get paid top end safety money, and he's not that. So I'm okay with losing him. Sue is going to leave. Linval Joseph is going to leave. Fletcher Cox is going to leave. We got to pay Kaiser White. We got to pay TJ Edwards. So it's going to be an overhaul in Philly. It's going to be a much different team next year.
I'm trying to think of like football fits that would make sense for Miles Sanders. What about Sanders in Denver with Russell Wilson in that offense?
Yeah, but Denver's where running backs go to die, dude.
I know.
Like they never make it out of Denver.
That's a good point.
I'd rather him. I mean, I feel like the Niners are always injured at running back. I'd rather him, maybe just go be a change of pace back with CMC. The Rams are always looking for a back. Maybe LA. I don't know. I feel bad. He loves it here. He wanted to come back so bad, but you can't pay running backs. You can't win and pay your running back. It's been proven time and time again. And don't even get me. I don't want Derrick Henry. I know he's tradable. I know. Do not. No.
Yeah, I love Derrick Henry for fantasy, but it's hard to depend on a guy like that for 17 weeks of a football season. It just is.
What you got to give up to get him? He's going to be 2-3 draft picks and a young piece. You don't need it.
Going to be a lot to get that freight train Derrick Henry.
We don't need him. Our quarterback squats 600 pounds. I don't need Derrick Henry. We're good.
Going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the NFL plays out in terms of free agency, guys moving places. Looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to go to the Jets. What do you think?
Saw that coming, though.
What do you think of that?
I think it's great. I think if you're a Jets fan, this is your Super Bowl. However, you had better win a Super Bowl this year, maybe next. You're running out of Aaron Rodgers. He may be out of the Magic already. If you watched him play last year in Green Bay, he was not the same guy. They were short on weapons, I know, but the Jets have to do it. They've been so mediocre for so long. They had to make a splash.
Here's what I love about signing Aaron Rodgers. It's essentially the KD Kyrie move in the sense that like you're giving ownership of your franchise away to this guy, except it's like 10 million times worse because Aaron Rodgers he's the devil. Like if you've ever heard him speak, he is Satan in human form. He just fucking is. So I cannot wait to see him come to New York. He will fail miserably. They will have a few good games where he looks like Aaron Rodgers, but otherwise last season he looked pedestrian at best. And I just think it's going to be really funny when he freaks out on Garrett Wilson for running a wrong route and he screams at Robert Saleh and he doesn't talk to his offensive coordinator for 3 weeks. It's going to be very funny to see that shit show.
The New York media is going to shred him to pieces. Think of what the media has to be like in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Like you can be a lunatic and go off on your darkness retreats and take ayahuasca before games. No one cares because you make people come to their little slice of hell. In New York, they are going to grill him every second of every day, and I don't think he's going to do well. I think he is going to shut down mentally.
He ain't Brett Favre, all right? Brett Favre was able to do it because Brett Favre's an asshole, but in a different way. He was able to handle.
For what it's worth, Brett Favre was not a great Jet.
He wasn't a great Jet. You're right. He was mediocre at best. But he was like the best Jets quarterback. Lamar, where's he going to go?
It doesn't appear to be Baltimore.
Washington.
They used the non-exclusive tag on him, which means for 2 first-round picks, he can be had.
Philly Brandon, could you imagine an NFC East with Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, and Lamar Jackson. Oh my God. We are easily the best conference in football then.
We would for sure be the fastest conference in football.
Daniel Jones would probably be the slowest quarterback out of those 4 guys. Unless he's faster than Prescott.
He might be faster than Dak.
I'd like to see them race. It would be interesting.
Because Dak's not known as a distance guy. He's more shifty. Like, he's more like Aaron Rodgers in his heyday.
Dak stinks, man. I don't feel bad for Dallas, but like I'm never worried about them. They're just they're not intimidating.
Well, okay.
They haven't been
If we're being
intimidating for
honest,
years.
Let's be honest here. You didn't need to worry about them until recently because that wasn't a concern of yours.
Yeah, no, but I like last year we all knew you guys were legitimate, right? Like you don't have AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Miles Sanders, and the emergence of Jalen Hurts and have like pedestrian numbers. The funny thing with the Cowboys is they're supposed to be almost as good as you guys, yet they never reach their full potential. And that's my favorite thing about the Cowboys. It's like they're like that restaurant that you read about that's amazing, but everyone who goes there is just like, meh, it's overrated. Like that is the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, they're the touristy restaurant that you just don't go to.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That was a good episode. We were able to cover Nets, Sixers, Eagles, Giants, Jets. Talked about a lot today. The one thing we did not talk about, Brandon, is women, and it is International Women's Day. So shout out to all the women in our lives. I specifically wanted to shout out. Hold on, let me pull her up. I wanted us to each pick one woman and just shout them out. Okay, so while I'm shouting out mine, you can think of yours. Okay. Mine is Betty DeVille from the Rugrats. This is Phil and Lil's mother. She was one of my favorite characters growing up. Betty DeVille, she was great. Shout out to Rugrats and shout out to the woman who voices Betty DeVille.
Okay, I dig it. We went similar directions. I just went with the first thing that popped into my head, which was Marge Simpson.
Why did I know you were going to say Marge Simpson?
Because if there was an all-star game for like domestic abilities, Marge would have wiped the floor with them. I mean, there's one in particular episode where she's out doing like physical therapy or something, and then sprints 4 miles home to get her kids at the bus stop, and then sprints with the kids somewhere else to get something. Like, it was just a masterclass in being a mom, and that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Could you give me a good Marge Simpson impression?
No, I mean, I know she says "homie" a lot.
I can do a decent one.
Okay.
Oh, homie.
That's pretty. That's pretty close.
That's pretty good, right?
That's pretty spot on.
All right. Shout out to all our listeners out there. Thank you for tuning into another edition of 2 Hours No Traffic. Happy International Women's Day. And we love you. Take it easy, everybody.
Later.